First, in about 90 seconds, I'll what creatinine actually is, show you what creatinine actually is, and why that number climbs. Because once you understand that, every one of these 5 snacks will make complete sense. Then we'll go through them one by one. By the end, you'll know which 5 snacks to buy this week, exactly how to prepare each one so it works for your kidneys instead of against them, and you'll understand your own lab report better than you ever have before. Now let me give you the 92 explanation that almost nobody ever gives you. Creatinine is a waste product. Every time your muscles do their job, they burn a fuel called creatine for energy. And creatinine is the leftover waste from that process. It circulates through your bloodstream until your kidneys filter it out and send it into your urine. So in a healthy body, creatinine is produced all day and cleared all day, which keeps the level in your blood low and steady. Your kidneys perform this filtering through about 1 million microscopic filters each. Those filters have a name worth remembering: nephrons. When nephrons become damaged from years of high blood sugar, blood pressure that stayed too high for too long, or the slow progression of chronic kidney disease, that filtering process begins to slow down. The creatinine your body keeps producing is no longer cleared as quickly as it is made, so it starts building up in the bloodstream. That's when your lab reports begin showing numbers like 1.5, snack 1.8, 2.0, 0, and climbing. Now, stay with me, because this is the part that changes everything. That creatinine number doesn't just reflect how damaged your kidney filters are, it also responds to 2 things that are completely within your influence every single day. First, how much waste you're asking your kidneys to clear in the first place. Second, how much ongoing damage those filters are receiving from inflammation and from the blood vessels that supply them. Each of these 5 snacks works on one of those 2 levers. Less waste to filter, less damage to the filters. That's the entire game. And your fork is one of the very few places where you actually get a vote. The first snack is one I recommend to nearly every kidney patient I see. And when I ask whether they eat it, almost all of them say no. Red grapes. And I can already hear the objection because I hear it in the exam room every single week. Doctor, grapes are full of sugar and I'm trying to control my blood sugar. Stay with me because the answer is much more interesting than a simple yes or no. Red grapes contain a natural compound called resveratrol. You've probably heard about it in connection with red wine. But what the wine label never tells you is that the resveratrol found in whole grapes is far more useful to your body than anything you would get from alcohol. And alcohol is the very last thing a struggling kidney needs more of. Inside the kidneys, resveratrol helps calm oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is the cellular wear and tear caused by unstable molecules known as free radicals. In damaged kidneys, this wear and tear happens faster than it should, slowly creating more scarring in the nephrons year after year. Resveratrol acts as an antioxidant, helping to slow that destructive process. The skin of the grape adds another layer of protection. It contains a group of flavonoids called quercetin and anthocyanins, the same pigments responsible for the deep red and purple color of the grape. Early research has linked these compounds to reduced protein leakage into the urine. If you've ever been told that you have protein in your urine or you've noticed your urine looking unusually foamy in the toilet, that foam often represents protein slipping through filters that should have kept it inside your bloodstream. Then there's another benefit that's especially important for kidney health, the one those articles about red wine almost never mention. Red grapes are naturally low in potassium. A half-cup serving contains only about 88 milligrams of potassium. Compare that with a single banana, which contains more than 400 milligrams. For someone snack 2 living with stage 3 or stage 4 kidney disease, that difference is enormous. Damaged kidneys have difficulty removing excess potassium. And when potassium levels become too high, they can interfere with your heart's normal rhythm. That's why finding a fruit that is naturally sweet, satisfying, and still gentle on your potassium levels is both rare and incredibly valuable. Now let's talk about the best way to eat them. Choose fresh whole red grapes, wash them thoroughly, store them in the refrigerator. Eat about half a cup, which equals roughly 15 to 20 grapes, as a mid-morning or mid-after-afternoon snack. And here's the tip I give my own patients that almost nobody ever teaches. Pair that half cup of grapes with a small amount of protein, such as a few unsalted walnuts or a small piece of low-sodium cheese. The protein slows the absorption of the natural sugar into your bloodstream, allowing you to benefit from the resveratrol without causing a sharp spike in blood sugar. There are two mistakes you should avoid. First, do not drink grape juice instead. Juicing removes the fiber and concentrates the sugar into something your blood sugar simply won't appreciate. Second, don't reach for raisins. Drying grapes into raisins dramatically concentrates their potassium up to around 750 milligrams in just a /4 cup. That transforms a kidney-friendly food into a kidney problem. Choose fresh red grapes, not green grapes, because green grapes contain far fewer of the beneficial pigments. In this case, the color is part of the medicine. Now let me ask you something. Has a doctor ever told you to cut back on protein because of your kidneys? If so, I want you to listen very carefully to what comes next, because getting this wrong can hurt you in two different ways. Too much of the wrong kind of protein forces a struggling kidney to work harder. But too little protein of any kind causes you to lose the muscle that keeps you standing, walking, and protected from dangerous falls. The second snack strikes exactly the right balance: cooked egg whites. Here's why egg whites are almost in a class of their own for someone over the age of 60 with kidney disease. When your body breaks down protein, it produces waste products. One of those waste products is URA, which appears on your blood work as nitrogen. A kidney that's already struggling has to work even harder to remove that URA. Years ago, the standard advice was simply to slash protein intake in order to reduce the workload. But that advice quietly created another serious problem. People over 60 are snack-free, already losing muscle every year through a process called sarcopenia, the gradual age-related loss of muscle mass. And here's the twist that surprises even some physicians. When you lose muscle, your creatinine readings can actually appear worse because creatinine is produced by muscle in the first place. A frail body that's vulnerable to falling is far more dangerous than a lab number alone can ever show. The smarter solution has been sitting in front of us all along. Choose a protein your body can use almost completely, one that leaves behind very little waste. That is exactly what egg whites provide. Egg whites have what is known as the highest biological value of any dietary protein. In simple terms, your body uses almost all of it, leaving behind very little waste for your kidneys to clean up. Less leftover waste means less strain. And for someone whose BUN is already elevated, that's meaningful relief. There's another important advantage, especially for people with stage 3 or stage 4 kidney disease. Egg whites contain almost no phosphorus. Phosphorus is a mineral that damaged kidneys struggle to remove. As phosphorus builds up in the blood, it weakens bones and hardens blood vessels. Nearly all of an egg's phosphorus is found in the yolk. So, by eating only the whites and leaving the yolks behind, you get premium quality protein with almost none of the phosphorus burden. Here's the best way to prepare them. Scramble 2 or 3 egg whites in a small amount of olive oil without adding salt. Use fresh herbs such as parsley or chives for flavor, or simply hard-boil whole eggs and remove the yolks. If you buy cartons of liquid egg whites, read the nutrition label carefully. Some brands add significant amounts of sodium. Choose one that contains less than about 100 milligrams of sodium per serving. The biggest mistake I see is someone eating one lonely egg white and calling it a snack. If your goal is to preserve muscle, you should aim for approximately 10 to 15 grams of protein at one sitting. That usually means 3 to 4 egg whites. One important caution. If you're living with advanced kidney disease, stage 4 progressing towards stage 5, your protein requirements become highly individualized. Work with your own kidney specialist to determine exactly how much protein you should eat. But for most people in the earlier stages of kidney disease, smart protein choices like egg whites are a benefit, not a threat. Now the third snack is probably going to surprise you. It surprised about half of my colleagues too. Potatoes. The very food that nearly every kidney diet handout in America tells you to cross off your list, I'm going to tell you to put them back on. And the reason snack 4 comes down to one preparation method that's been sitting in kidney nutrition textbooks for decades, but almost never reaches real patients. Potatoes are usually restricted because they're high in potassium. And that's true. But potassium has one characteristic that most people never learn. It dissolves in water. Potassium is water-soluble. That means you can physically remove a large portion of it before you ever eat the potato. Kidney dietitians call this technique leaching. Here's exactly how it works. Peel the potatoes, slice them into thin pieces about 1/8 of an inch thick. The thinner the slices, the more surface area is exposed to the water. Place the slices into a large pot of warm water and let them soak for at least 4 hours. Halfway through the soaking time, change the water once. Then drain the potatoes, rinse them thoroughly, and cook them in fresh unsalted water. When done correctly, this process removes about 30 to 50% of the potato's potassium, leaving it behind in the water that you throw away. No, it doesn't remove all of the potassium. A leach-shed potato still contains potassium. This isn't the free pass to eat unlimited amounts, but it transforms a high potassium food into a moderate potassium food that many people with stage 3 kidney disease can safely enjoy with their kidney doctor's approval. Yes, eating crackers would be easier. I understand that. But maintaining quality of life on a kidney diet is one of the biggest reasons people actually stick with it. A potato is warm, it's filling, it's easy to chew, and it's genuinely satisfying in a way that a rice cake or a celery stick will never be. When people feel hungry and deprived, they abandon the diet completely. And abandoning the diet causes far more harm than a carefully prepared potato ever could. Here's how I recommend preparing it. Take 2 small potatoes, leach them exactly as I described. Boil them in fresh water, then lightly mash them with a drizzle of olive oil, a little fresh snack, 5 rosemary, and a squeeze of lemon juice. Limit yourself to about half a cup per serving. There are 2 major mistakes to avoid. First, don't microwave the potato and assume it's the same thing. Microwaving cooks the potato, but it removes none of the potassium. The potassium stays inside. The slicing, soaking, and boiling are essential. Second, don't let anyone tell you to replace it with a sweet potato because it's supposedly healthier. For the average healthy person, maybe for someone with kidney disease, that's a completely different story. A medium sweet potato contains more than 500 milligrams of potassium. Unless you prepare it using the exact same leaching process, it is not the safer option. A kidney diet and a general healthy diet are not the same thing. Confusing the two can lead to real harm. Before we continue, I'd like to ask one small favor that truly helps keep this channel going. If you're finding this information helpful, let me know your age in the comments below. And if you know your most recent creatinine level or GFR, include that too. I read those comments and they help guide the videos I create next. And if you could take just a second to tap the like button, it helps YouTube share this information with more people over the age of 60 who are frightened by their lab results and have no one explaining what they actually mean. That's all. Now let's continue, because the final 2 snacks are ones that most people have never even associated with kidney health. The 4th snack is one I recommend to nearly every kidney patient I see, regardless of the stage of disease: cauliflower. The reasons go much deeper than what's written on standard kidney diet sheets. Let's begin with the basics. Cauliflower is naturally low in potassium, containing about 150 milligrams in a half-cup serving. It's also low in phosphorus, low in sodium, and it's an excellent source of vitamin C and folate. That's especially important because kidney patients, particularly those on dialysis or following very restricted diets, often become deficient in these water-soluble vitamins. But here's the deeper story, the part you won't hear while walking through the produce section. Cauliflower belongs to the cruciferous vegetable family along with broccoli, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts. These vegetables contain a natural compound called indole-3-arbol. Your body converts it into another compound researchers commonly refer to as DIM. Research suggests that DIM helps reduce inflammation by influencing one of your cell's primary inflammatory control systems, known as the NF-kappa B pathway. And that word inflammation is central to a real story from a patient understanding why kidney disease continues to progress over time. In chronic kidney disease, a low, persistent, smoldering level of inflammation is one of the main reasons creatinine continues to climb, even in people who feel perfectly fine. Now, I want to be careful here and not overstate the evidence. Research on this particular compound and its direct effects on the kidneys is still in its early stages. And I am not telling you that cauliflower alone will lower your creatinine. What I am telling you is this. Reducing that underlying inflammation is one of the fundamental strategies for slowing the progression of kidney disease according to kidney specialists at the National Institutes of Health. And cauliflower is a genuinely safe, nutritious food that supports that effort. There's another important benefit that's worth discussing. It connects directly to those frequent nighttime trips to the bathroom that may be wearing you down. Cauliflower is rich in choline, a nutrient that helps support the health of your kidney's tubular cells. These are the specialized cells responsible for concentrating your urine and reabsorbing water back into the body. When these cells don't function well, your kidneys produce larger amounts of weaker, more diluted urine, and suddenly you're getting out of bed again at 2 o'clock in the morning. The research connecting dietary choline directly to that symptom is still developing. So I don't want to overpromise, but the biological mechanism makes sense. And cauliflower is a safe, healthy food, so there's very little downside to making it part of your routine. Now, let's talk about the one thread. Lowering the workload best way to prepare it. One of my favorite recipes is what I call kidney rice. Place raw cauliflower fouettes into a food processor and pulse them until they resemble grains of rice. Then microwave them for 2 to 3 minutes without adding any water. Finish with fresh herbs, a squeeze of lemon juice, and a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. It's warm, filling, satisfying, and incredibly easy. Another excellent option is to roast the fouettes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit with a little olive oil and a light sprinkle of garlic powder until the edges become beautifully golden. The biggest mistake to avoid is buying frozen cauliflower. That's already covered in cheese sauce. Take a look at the nutrition label and you'll often find large amounts of sodium and phosphate additives. Both are hard on damaged kidneys. Instead, buy plain fresh cauliflower or plain frozen cauliflower and season it yourself. Now, let's move to the fifth and final snack. This is the one that genuinely surprises people, including, I'll admit, a few physicians who haven't kept up with the latest research in kidney nutrition. Macadamia nuts. If you've been told to avoid all nuts because of kidney disease, I want to explain why that blanket recommendation is becoming outdated and why macadamia nuts occupy a category all their own, most nuts really. What to do tonight can be problematic for people with kidney disease. That recommendation came from a legitimate concern. Just 1 ounce of almonds contains approximately 200 milligrams of potassium and 136 milligrams of phosphorus. For someone living with stage 3 or stage 4 kidney disease, that's a significant burden from both minerals at the same time. But macadamia nuts are different. 1 ounce, which is about 10 to 12 nuts, contains only about 104 millig of potassium and 53 milligrams of phosphorus. Those numbers are dramatically lower than nearly every other commonly eaten nut. That transforms macadamia from a food many people avoid into one they can often enjoy, and they provide something your kidneys quietly appreciate. Macadamia nuts are exceptionally rich in monounsaturated fats, particularly oleic acid, the very same heart-healthy fat that makes extra virgin olive oil so beneficial. That matters not only for your heart, but also for your kidneys, because kidney disease and heart disease almost always travel together. Kidney specialists at the National Institutes of Health and heart specialists at the American Heart Association emphasize the very same point. A person living with chronic kidney disease is actually far more likely to die from a cardiovascular event than from kidney failure itself. When to call your kidney doctor first? The same inflammation and blood vessel damage that injure the kidneys also damage the arteries throughout the body. Monounsaturated fats help lower harmful LDL cholesterol while improving the health of the lining of your blood vessels. Healthier blood vessels mean healthier blood flow into your kidneys. And healthy blood flow is exactly what those tiny kidney filters need to continue doing their job. There is also early research suggesting that these healthy fats may help reduce the protein leakage through the kidney filters that we discussed earlier. Meanwhile, diets high in unhealthy saturated fats may make that leakage even worse. Again, I don't want to overstate the evidence, but the overall direction of the research has been remarkably consistent, and macadamia nuts remain an excellent food choice. They're also one of the very few truly satisfying crunchy snacks for people trying to manage both kidney disease and blood sugar. That's because they have very little effect on blood glucose levels. To enjoy them properly, portion control is essential. Macadamia nuts are calorie-dense. Stick with 1 ounce or about 10 to 12 nuts and no more. Buy them raw and unsalted whenever possible. If raw isn't available, choose dry roasted varieties with no added oil and no added salt. Avoid flavored varieties coated in caramel, chocolate, or sweet seasonings, since these often contain added sugar, sodium, and phosphate additives. Here's one habit I recommend to many of my own patients. Measure out 10 to 12 macadamia nuts into a small container. In the afternoon, pair them with 4 or 5 fresh red grapes from the first snack, assuming your potassium allowance permits it. Now you've created a nourishing, kidney-friendly snack that requires virtually no preparation. One final warning, and this has nothing to do with your kidneys. It has everything to do with the dog lying at your feet. Macadamia nuts are toxic to dogs. Please keep them completely out of your pet's reach. Now, let me tell you about a patient I'll call Walter because his story is exactly why I continue making videos like this. Walter came to see me at the age of 67. Over the previous couple of years, his creatinine had gradually climbed until his chart officially showed stage 3 chronic kidney disease. Both his blood pressure and his blood sugar had remained elevated through much of his 60s. What he told me during that very first appointment is something I hear over and over again. He said he actually felt fine, which made those lab numbers seem completely unfair. He walked out of every appointment with another prescription, but not a single conversation about what was happening in his own kitchen. He was getting out of bed 3 times every night to urinate without telling anyone. He had quietly stopped traveling because of it, and he was frightened in the very particular way. People become frightened when a lab number keeps climbing and nobody has given them anything practical they can actually do. So, we focused on 2 things. First, he continued taking every medication his kidney specialist prescribed because nutrition should never replace the treatment recommended by your physician. Second, we became very intentional about what he ate between meals using the exact same 5 snacks I've shared with you today. He replaced his afternoon crackers with fresh red grapes and a small handful of macadamia nuts. He learned how to leach a potato. His wife began making cauliflower rice. Over the months that followed, alongside his medications and regular lab work, his numbers stabilized. I want to choose my words carefully here because this is where people often make promises they can't keep. His creatinine did not return to normal. It simply stopped climbing and remained stable. His blood pressure improved. His nighttime trips to the bathroom dropped from 3 times a night to just once. But the thing he told me he appreciated most wasn't his lab results at all. It was the feeling that he had finally become an active participant in protecting his kidneys instead of standing by helplessly watching them slowly fail. I also want to be honest about the other ending because I've seen it far too many times. The person who hears all of this intends to make changes but never quite gets around to it, then comes back a year later with worse numbers and far fewer treatment options. The difference between those 2 stories is rarely about willpower, and it's almost never about money. Most of the time, the difference is simply this. One person made one small change this week while it was still fresh in there.